The 36th Infantry Division, also known as the Texas Division, is an infantry division of the United States Army, part of the Texas Army National Guard. It was organized at the Camp Bowie, Texas, the 18th of July 1917, from units of the Texas and Oklahoma National Guard during World War I. It was activated for service for World War II on the 25th of November 1940, and was sent to the European Theater of Operations in April 1943, and returned to the Texas Army National Guard in December 1945. A unit of the 36th Infantry, the 2nd Battalion, 131st Field Artillery, was detached and sent to the Pacific just before the outbreak of war in late 1941. Captured by the Japanese and forced into slave labor, its fate was unknown for most of the rest of World War II, resulting in the name of the Lost Battalion. The 36th Infantry Division was reconstituted in a May 2004 reorganization of the 49th Armored Division. History: World War I. The 36th Infantry Division was activated as the 15th Division, an Army National Guard division from Texas and Oklahoma. The new unit also received a new commander, Major General Edwin St. John Griebel. The designation was changed to the 36th Division in July 1917. The final composition of the 36th Division consisted of the 71st and 72nd Infantry Brigades, the 141st and 142nd Infantry Regiments belonging to the 71st. The 143rd and 144th Infantry Regiments were attached to the 72nd Brigade. Also belonging to the 71st was the 132nd Machine Gun Battalion. Similarly, the 72nd received the 133rd Machine Gun Battalion, the 61st Field Artillery Brigade, 131st, 132nd, and 133rd Field Artillery Regiments, 111th Regiment Engineers, 111th Signal Battalion and the 111th Supply Train comprised the rest of the 36th Division. The unit trained at Camp Bowie, Texas, then in Tarrant County, the site of the present-day city of Fort Worth. The unit was sent to Europe in July 1918 and conducted major operations in the Musagon Offensive. On 9–10 October, the unit participated in heavy combat near the village of St. Etienne. Following this victory, which included the capture of several hundred men and officers of the German army, as well as artillery, the unit launched an assault near an area known as Forest Farm. During World War I, the division suffered 2,584 casualties, 466 killed in action and 2,118 wounded in action. The unit was inactivated in June 1919. World War II. The 36th was called up again for active federal service on the 25th of November 1940 at San Antonio, Texas, departing for its mobilization station at Camp Bowie, Texas on the 14th of December 1940. It moved to Brownwood, Texas on the 1st of June 1941, where it participated in the 8th Corps Brownwood maneuvers until the 13th of June 1941. The division then returned to Camp Bowie. The division then moved to Mansfield, Louisiana, and took part in both the August and September 1941 Louisiana maneuvers. The division then returned to Camp Bowie on the 2nd of October 1941, where it was reorganized into a triangular infantry division on the 1st of February 1942. The division then moved to Camp Blanding, Florida on the 19th of February 1942, and participated in the Carolina maneuvers between the 9th of July 1942 and the 15th of August 1942. The division then was staged at Camp Edwards, Massachusetts on 17 August 1942, for its port call to the European Theatre of Operations. During its time at Camp Edwards, the division conducted mock assaults of Martha's Vineyard Island in preparation for future amphibious operations. The division departed the New York port of embarkation on 2 April 1943, for North Africa. Organizations pre 2 October 1941 Square Organization HHC 36th Infantry Division TXARNG 36th Military Police Platoon 36th Signal Company 111th Ordnance Company 111th Engineer Regiment TXARNG 111th Medical Regiment 111th Quartermaster Regiment HHC 71st Infantry Brigade TXARNG 141st Infantry TXARNG 142nd Infantry TXARNG HHC 72nd Infantry Brigade TXARNG 143rd Infantry TXARNG 144th Infantry TXARNG HHB 61st Field Artillery Brigade TXARNG 131st Field Artillery Regiment TXARNG 132nd Field Artillery Regiment TXARNG 133rd Field Artillery Regiment TXARNG. The 2nd of October 1941 Triangular Reorganization HHC in AM Special Troops 36th Infantry Division TXARNG 36th Military Police Platoon 36th Signal Company 36th Quartermaster Company 36th Counter-Intelligence Corps Detachment 36th Mechanized Reconnaissance Troop 736th Ordnance Company 111th Engineer Battalion TXARNG 111th Medical Battalion 141st Infantry Regiment TXARNG 142nd Infantry Regiment TXARNG 143rd Infantry Regiment TXARNG HHB 36th Division Artillery TXARNG 131st Field Artillery Battalion TXARNG 132nd Field Artillery Battalion TXARNG 133rd Field Artillery Battalion TXARNG 155th Field Artillery Battalion TXARNG 1944-45 Augmentations 191st Tank Battalion 753rd Tank Battalion 636th Tank Destroyer Battalion 822nd Tank Destroyer Battalion, the 29th of April 1945 to 1 May 1945. 443rd Anti-Aircraft Artillery Battalion, 442nd Regimental Combat Team. Combat Chronicle. The 36th Infantry Division, composed of the 141st, 142nd and 143rd Infantry Regiments, landed in North Africa the 13th of April 1943, and trained at Arzew and Rabat. It was assigned to the 6th Corps, 5th Army, but attached to Services of Supply, North African Theatre of Operations U.S. Army, for supply. The division, under command of Major General Fred L. Walker, first saw action in the Italian campaign on 9 September 1943, when it landed by sea at Paestum and fought in the Battle of Salerno against intense German opposition. The Germans launched counterattacks on 12 to 14 September, but the 36th repulsed them with the aid of air support and naval gunfire, and advanced slowly, securing the area from Agropoli to Alta Villa. After a brief rest, the 36th returned to combat on the 15th of November. It captured Mount Maggiore, Mount Lungo, and the village of San Pietro despite strong enemy positions and severe winter weather. This grueling campaign against the Bernhardt Line was marked by futile attempts to establish a secure bridgehead across the Garry River, erroneously identified as the Rapido. The 1st of January 1944 to the 8th of February 1944. The division attacked across the Garry River January 20, 1944 but was harshly repulsed by the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division, and 2 regiments were virtually destroyed and the attack was stopped January 22, 1944. The division had sustained 1,681 casualties, 143 of them killed, 663 wounded, and 875 missing. Strong controversy flared among the officers of the division, and Lieutenant General Mark W. Clark, commanding the U.S. Fifth Army, was criticized for having ordered a difficult frontal attack and accused of having caused the disaster. After the war, the United States Congress, urged by veterans of the division, conducted an investigation into the causes and responsibility for the defeat on the Garry River. After assisting the U.S. 34th Infantry Division in the attack on Cassino and fighting defensively along the Garry River, the severely depleted 36th withdrew the 12th of March 1944 for rest and recreation. The division arrived by sea at the Anzio beachhead the 22nd of May 1944 to take part in Operation Diadem, with the breakout from the beachhead commencing the following day. It drove north to capture Velletri the 1st of June and entered Rome on the 5th, the day before the Normandy landings. Pushing up from Rome, the 36th encountered sharp resistance at Magliano, but reached Piombino the 26th of June 1944, before moving back to Paestum for rest and recreation. On the 15th of August 1944, as part of the U.S. 6th Army Group, the division made another amphibious assault landing against light opposition in the Saint-Raphael-Fréjus area of southern France as part of Operation Dragoon, the invasion of southern France. A rapid advance opened the Rhône River Valley. Montélimar fell the 28th of August, and large German units were trapped. On the 15th of September 1944, the division was attached to the French First Army. The 36th advanced to the Moselle River at Remamont and the foothills of the Vosges. On the 30th of September 1944, the 442nd Regimental Combat Team was assigned to the 36th to help shore up the division. The 442nd was subsequently used to spearhead the capture towns of Briez and Bifontaine, where they faced stiff opposition. On the 24th of October, the 143rd Infantry of the 36th Division relieved the 100th and 3rd Battalion, who were sent to Belmont, another small town to the north, for some short-lived rest. On the 23rd of October, the 36th Infantry Division's 1st Battalion of the 141st Alamo Regiment were cut off just beyond the town of Bifontaine. On October 27, the 442nd RCT was called back in to save this lost battalion. The 100th fielded 1,432 men a year earlier, but was now down to 239 infantrymen and 21 officers. The 2nd Battalion was down to 316 riflemen and 17 officers, while not a single company in 3rd Battalion had over 100 riflemen. The entire 100th 442nd Regimental Combat Team was down to less than 800 soldiers. On the 13th of October 1944, when attached to the 36th Infantry Division. The unit was at 2,943 riflemen and officers, but in only 3 weeks 140 were killed and 1,800 were wounded, while 43 were missing. For this action, the 442nd RCT would earn 3 of its 7 presidential unit citations. In a grinding offensive, the division crossed the Meurthe River, breached the Sainte Marie Pass and burst into the Alsatian plains. The enemy counterattacked the 13th of December 1944, but the 36th held the perimeter of the Colmar Pocket. On the 15th of December 1944, the division was released from attachment to the French First Army and returned to the control of 6th Corps under the U.S. 7th Army. The German army counterattacks out of the Colmar Pocket were so fierce that at times, the field artillery was forced to fire over open sights at point-blank range to stop them. On the 20th of December 1944, the division resumed the attack, advancing northward along the Rhine River to Mannheim, meeting heavy resistance at Hagenau, Oberhofen, and Wissembourg. In this action, Company G of the 143rd Infantry Regiment received a Presidential Unit Citation. On the 27th of December 1944, the division was reassigned to 21st Corps of the 7th Army, and was pinched out and returned to 7th Army Reserve on the 30th of December 1944. On the afternoon of the 30th of October, 3rd Battalion broke through and reached the 141st, rescuing 211 T-patches at the cost of 800 men in 5 days. However, the fighting continued for the 442nd as they moved past the 141st. The drive continued until they reached Saint-Die on the 17th of November, when they were finally pulled back. The division was taken out of the line for the first time since it had landed in the south of France. On the 3rd of January 1945, the division was reassigned to 15th Corps. On the 18th of January 1945, the division was reassigned to 6th Corps. It returned to the line early March 1945. The 36th was reassigned to the 7th Army on the 29th of March 1945, and moved to the Danube River on the 22nd of April 1945. The 36th has been recognized as a liberating unit for its work securing the sub-camps of the Dachau concentration camp system. The 36th Division was reassigned to the 21st Corps on the 27th of April 1945, and attacked the Kunzelsaar area on the 30th. Members of the division's 142nd Infantry Regiment, arriving as reinforcements on May 5, tipped the battle for Castle-Itte in favor of a combined U.S. Army-Wehrmacht defense against a Waffen-SS attack, the only time German and American forces fought side by side in World War II. By the 8th of May 1945, the 36th Division was based in Kitzbühel, Austria, where it captured Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, the commander of all German army forces on the Western Front, and its final station was at Kufstein, Austria on the 14th of August 1945. After 400 days of combat, the 36th Infantry Division returned to the United States in December 1945. It was returned to the Texas Army National Guard on the 15th of December 1945. The lost battalion, the 2nd Battalion, 131st Field Artillery, along with the rest of the 36th Infantry Division, was mobilized for federal service on the 20th of November 1940. Earmarked as part of the reinforcements to U.S. Army troops in the Philippines. The battalion was detached from the 36th Infantry and sailed on the US Republic on the 21st of November 1941 for Pearl Harbor. For there it was diverted to Australia, learning of the surprise attack and U. entry into World War II en route. Before the end of the month, the battalion was bound for the island of Java in the Dutch East Indies. It took part in the Battle of Java and fought fiercely at Porome with several other Allied units until it was captured by the Japanese. Information on the unit's fate after the Dutch surrender in Java failed to reach the U.S. government, resulting in its subsequent nickname, the Lost Battalion. As prisoners, the men were forced to work in Burma and Thailand as slave laborers on the Burma-Siam Death Railway of the bridge on the River Kwai Fame, as well as coal mines, docks and shipyards in Japan and other Southeast Asian countries. Conditions were poor, treatment harsh, and mortality exceptionally high. Others died in U.S. submarine attacks en route to Singapore and Japan, and more yet were killed by American bombers. It was through debriefing of some survivors of the POW convoys who had been rescued by U.S. submarines that the government first learned of the unit's fate. When liberated, the men were scattered throughout Southeast Asia in Java, Singapore, Burma, Thailand, French Indochina, Japan, China and Manchuria. Note: the 36th Infantry Division also for a time lost its 1st Battalion of the 141st Regiment on 24 October 1944 in the Vosges Mountains. The attached 442nd Regimental was sent in to rescue them. Unit Awards: Presidential Unit Citation, 12 Personal Awards, Medal of Honor, 14 Distinguished Service Crosses, 80 Distinguished Service Medals, 2 Silver Stars, 2,354 Legion of Merit Medals, 49 Soldiers Medals, 77 Bronze Star Medals, 5,407 Air Medals, 88 Total Casualties: Kia, 3,131, Mia, 13,191, Died of wounds, 506. Global War on Terror. On 1 May 2004, the 49th Armored Division of the Texas Army National Guard was officially deactivated and the 49th Armored Division was redesignated the 36th Infantry Division. After half a century, the Fighting 36th was reactivated and carried on the legacy of the 36th Division. In January 2004, 74 soldiers from Alpha Battery, 2nd Battalion, 131st Field Artillery were activated for federal service in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Alpha Battery, commanded by CPT Alvaro Gomez, entered federal service in Fort Sill, OK. Under the supervision of 1SG Alfredo Barrera, the soldiers trained and deployed to Iraq. While readying their equipment in Kuwait, Alpha Battery was given her mission and the 5 radar sections were split up. One TPQ-37 radar section was attached to the 1st Marine Division in Al Taqadum, another was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division at LSA Anaconda, and the 3 TPQ-36 radar sections were assigned to the 2nd Infantry Division in Mosul. The headquarters and support platoon operated out of Forward Operating Base Freedom in northern Mosul. In addition to the target acquisition mission, the support platoon supplemented patrols conducted by the 25th Infantry Division Fires Brigade FIST team and provided security for the FOB's perimeter by manning the entrance gates and watchtowers. At the conclusion of the battery's deployment, its members were awarded 3 Bronze Star Medals, 1 Purple Heart in Medal, 47 Army Commendation Medals, 74 Combat Action Badges, several memorandums of appreciation from command staff, and authorized to wear the unit shoulder sleeve insignia for wartime service from the 2nd Infantry Division, the 25th Infantry Division, the 36th Infantry Division, or the 1st Infantry Division. In 2005, approximately 100 soldiers of the 36th Infantry Division deployed to Bosnia for Enduring Mission 3, which was a continuation from previous I-4 and SFOR missions. When Task Force Strike left Eagle Base in Tuzla late 2006, it marked the end of an American military maneuver presence in Bosnia which had existed for almost a decade after the Dayton Accords. In 2005, over 3,000 troops from the 56th BCT, 36th ID deployed to Iraq as part of the largest deployment of Texas troops since World War II. 3 133rd FA, 2 142nd INF were both awarded meritorious unit citations for the service in Iraq. In 2005-06, 800 soldiers of 3D Battalion, 141st Infantry Regiment, 72D Brigade, 36th Infantry Division deployed to Afghanistan. The battalion was attached to the 504th Infantry Regiment of the 82d Airborne Division and earned a joint meritorious unit citation. In 2006, the 1st Squadron, 124th Cavalry Regiment, 36th Infantry Division became the first cavalry unit to serve as peacekeepers in the Sinai Desert for the multinational force and observers. The force was made up of soldiers from several units of the 36th Infantry Division, including 1 112th Art, 2 112th Art, 3 112th Art, 3rd Mech, and CBTRY-2 131 FA. In late 2006, Company B of the 3D Battalion, 144th Infantry Regiment deployed to Iraq after pre-deployment training at FD, Dix, NJ and were actively engaged in combat operations. They returned in late 2007. 5 Army Commendation Medals with valor devices were awarded to soldiers of 1st Platoon, 2nd Squad in recognition of the defeat of an ambush on a State Department convoy in central Baghdad. In late 2005 to late 2006, the 36th Infantry Division was the major leading force for KFOR-7, the peacekeeping mission on Kosovo. The Combat Aviation Brigade, 36th Infantry Division shipped to Iraq in September 2006 for a planned one-year deployment. On the 7th of May 2007, 3D Battalion, 144th Infantry Regiment mobilized as Task Force Panther in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Task Force Panther trained at Camp Shelby, MS, and, after validation, deployed to Kuwait, and then into Iraq. On the 28th of August 2008, more than 3,000 soldiers of the 56th IBCT again deployed to Iraq. On the 15th of August 2009, the 3,000 soldiers of the 56th IBCT returned to Texas after 10 months in Iraq. 2 soldiers from Bravo Troop 3 to 124 Cav, and 1 from CBTRY-4 to 133 were wounded during the tour. On the 10th of April 2009, 136th Military Police Battalion deployed more than 150 soldiers to Afghanistan to command and run the Bagram Theater internment facility. Task Force Lone Star transferred the detainees from the BTIF to the new detention facility in Parwan. 136th Military Police Battalion returned in May 2010. On the 1st of October 2009, the 72nd IBCT mobilized for deployment to Iraq. Upon arrival in theater, the brigade headquarters assumed authority as the Joint Area Support Group conditional for the international zone, with the brigade's subordinate elements distributed throughout the country conducting detainee operations. The brigade returned from Iraq in July and August 2010, with a Battery 133 FA being the last element to return home. In November and December 2010, the 36th Infantry Division headquarters deployed to Basra, Iraq, replacing the U.S. 1st Infantry Division, where they provided command and control of U.S. active Army, Reserve, and National Guard units. The 36th ID Command covered 15,000 deployed military and contractor forces at 17 bases in the 9 provinces in southern Iraq. As part of the drawdown of U.S. forces in Iraq, the division headquarters redeployed to the U.S. starting in late August 2011, the main body following in September 2011 to Fort Hood, TX. No 36th ID soldiers were lost to combat operations during the deployment. On the 26th of November 2011, the newly formed 1st Battalion, 143rd Infantry Regiment mobilized as Task Force Walker for deployment to Afghanistan. The battalion, comprising companies from Texas, Rhode Island, and Alaska, was deployed across the country in support of provincial reconstruction teams. The headquarters element was located in Kabul, serving under the 648th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade in the Kabul Base Cluster. In the summer of 2012, both the 136th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade and Task Force Arrowhead mobilized for service in Afghanistan. The 136th MEB took control of several bases in the Kabul area, while TF Arrowhead, composed of 31 security force assistance teams, performed advisory duties with various Afghan National Security Forces elements in Regional Command South. Also, in the summer of 2012, the 3rd Battalion, C-INAMP-D Company 144th Infantry Regiment from the 56th BCT deployed to Afghanistan as Task Force Bowie. TF Bowie provided battalion command base security, including but not limited to presences, combat patrols, assessment missions, checkpoint control and flight line security for Shindand Air Base and surrounding areas. Shindand Air Base is located in the western part of Afghanistan in the Herat province, 7 miles northeast of the city of Sabzwar. Other areas of operations included Herat City, as well as RC North. In the fall of 2012, a small detachment was sent to RC North to assist in base security operations in coordination with small regiment from the 3rd ID. In the spring of 2013, BICO 3 144th IN deployed in support of TF 3-10 to Afghanistan and served in Kunduz, Kabul, Mazar-e-Sharif Camp Bashtan, and BAF insignia. The 36th Division insignia, consisting of an olive drab T on a blue flint arrowhead, was adopted in 1918. The flint arrowhead represents the state of Oklahoma, and the T is for Texas. Current structure: 36th Infantry Division exercises training and readiness oversight of the following elements. They are not organic. Special Troops Battalion, 1st Battalion, 143rd Infantry Regiment, 45th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, Special Troops Battalion, 1st Battalion, 179th Infantry Regiment, 1st Squadron, 180th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 279th Infantry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 160th Field Artillery Regiment, 700th Brigade Support Battalion, 56th Infantry Brigade Combat Team, 156th Brigade Engineer Battalion, 1st Squadron, 124th Cavalry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 142nd Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 144th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 133rd Field Artillery Regiment, 949th Brigade Support Battalion, 72nd Infantry Brigade Combat Team Special Troops Battalion, 1st Squadron, 112th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 141st Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 141st Infantry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 133rd Field Artillery Regiment, 536th Brigade Support Battalion, 155th Heavy Brigade Combat Team Special Troops Battalion, 1st Squadron, 98th Cavalry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 198th Armour Regiment, 1st Battalion, 155th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 114th Field Artillery Regiment, 106th Brigade Support Battalion, 256th Infantry Brigade Combat Team Special Troops Battalion, 2nd Squadron, 108th Cavalry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, 156th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 156th Infantry Regiment, 1st Battalion, 141st Field Artillery Regiment, 199th Brigade Support Battalion, Combat Aviation Brigade, 36th Infantry Division Headquarters and Headquarters Company, 2nd Battalion, 149th Aviation Regiment, 1st Battalion, 149th Aviation Regiment, 3rd Battalion, 131st Aviation Regiment, 1st Battalion, 114th Aviation Regiment, 449th Aviation Support Battalion. Attached units: 136th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, 36th Sustainment Brigade, 71st Battlefield Surveillance Brigade, 3rd Squadron, 124th Cavalry Regiment, 636th Stone Military Intelligence Battalion, 321st Military Intelligence Battalion, 143rd Network Support Signal Company, 112th Brigade Support Company, 236th Network Support Company, Associate Unit, 3rd Brigade, 10th Mountain Division. Division Commanders.